In this video, we're headed to Brainerd Motorsports Park for the Nostalgia Super Nationals. This event is put on by SNDR, and it has a group of gassers, dragsters, altereds, and superstock cars. Now, some of these cars are really period correct, some of them are not so much, but they're all nostalgia based, and they all have a good time. So we're going to cover some of my favorite cars, and then look at a little bit of the action on the track. The first car we're going to look at is Ray Ballew's Ford gasser called the Bad Alibi. Now this is unusual because normally you see a 55 Chevy gasser. This time it's a Ford with Ford horsepower. You can see this thing doesn't have an exotic setup under the hood, but it's definitely got plenty of power. It's 4-speed transmission. It's got some cool paint on the roof. You got the painted steel wheels, painted spokes on the front, great stance, a really good looking car. Now here's a pretty wild combination. This is a 31 Ford Model A sedan. This thing's full fendered. You can see it sitting just right. But under the hood, it's not a Ford, it's not a Chevrolet, it's got a Mopar engine. This thing has Indy aluminum cylinder heads, a tunnel ram, and 3 two-barrel Holleys. This is a wild combination. It's got a full roll cage. I mean, this is a pretty serious car, but it looks like a street ride on the outside. There was a great turnout of front engine dragsters, more than I've ever seen at Brainerd. And this was my favorite combination, mostly because of the trailer. Look at this homemade trailer that's made out of a camper top, some tin, a little bit of plywood, but it is perfect for an old front engine rail. That's just how they used to haul them back in the day. There was also a great turnout of gassers. And of course, if there's a gasser race, there's going to be a Henry J. And this one is a really cool setup. This one's called Little Henry. You can see it's got the engine set way back, and this thing's serious. It's got a Mopar combination with a blower, a 4-port Hilburn fuel injector. I mean, this thing makes big time horsepower, but he's still working the bugs out of it. This thing is super cool. It's got a little bit of drag racing history. You can see it's got a steel front end that's been welded together, and then out back it's got radius quarter panels, and this is a later Henry J. It's got tail lights and a trunk, but you can also see some wheelie bars. It's got a round tube bumper on the back. But the cool thing about this is it was built in the same garage as the Hemi Hurricane 1940 Willis. Now, I've done a full feature on the history of that car. It was a dominating car in A-gas in the 1960s. It was a cool piece of Georgia drag racing history. And this old Henry J was built in the same shop, and I think that's super cool. You can already tell there's a couple more Henry J's in the background here, but I'm focusing on the Zorro's Charger Kellison. Now, I've done a full feature on this car as well. You can see he's dialed in on a 650. Not only is this thing full of great Tennessee drag racing history, but he goes out and runs it hard. So really neat piece. Then we've got Rusty Robinson's Henry J here called Envy, and then another Henry J called the Spunky Monkey. This one's tubbed. You can see it's got the rear end cut out, straight axle in the front, 2-tone paint job, and a lot of hand lettering on it. You can look on the back here, it says Granite City Recappers. It's got the old phone number, the Henry J emblem, and then we've got a couple of tributes there. We've got Vic Temple and Gene Cromer, a couple of really influential guys back in the day. Here's another group of unusual drag cars. These cars run in the gasser class. Obviously, they don't look much like a gasser. They're not sitting up high or anything like that, but they're still cool to look at. This is a Hudson, a big giant Hudson with a Mopar engine in it. You can see it's got a little scoop on the flip forward hood. And then here's another Hudson. I'm assuming it's got a Mopar engine as well, but I'm not totally sure. Then next to it, we got a little American Motors Rambler. And this thing truly does have AMC horsepower under the hood. You can see it's got that tray that seals up to the hood scoop. This thing is super clean, and it's pretty quick too. All the AMC guys must have called each other and got together for this race, because there were several AMC cars on the premises, including this really cool Rambler. You can see, once again, we got real AMC horsepower under the hood. It's got a cool little scrambler scoop, just a neat little race car. There was also a super slick big tire AMX, and then an AMC Spirit. So tons of cool AMC variety here at Brainerd Motorsports Park. As we made it all the way to the end of the pits, we got a cool looking Camaro. This thing is totally 70s. You can see it's got red tinted windows, bright yellow paint job with those moon eyes on the door. It's got a square scoop, slotted mags, big old tires on the back, and a good 70s stance. Here's a cool 55 Chevy I've seen run at Bowling Green before. This thing is a tried and true gasser. You can see it's got Lexan windows, radius wheel wells on the back, and of course that American flag on the back of it. Wheelie bars, parachute, long ladder bars, the whole 9 yards. Now here's a cool one for the Mopar guys. This is a 64 Dodge, and it's done up in the famous Ram Chargers paint scheme. You can see the Hodges Dodges on the bottom there, 1963 stock Eliminator. They got the split paint on the steel wheels on the back, and aside from the front wheels, this thing looks pretty much period correct for the 1960s. Back in the 70s and 80s, you would have seen a lot of cars like this at the drag strip. This is a 65 Chevelle, two-door post. Now you can see they have added a cowl induction hood. Get a couple of points docked for that as far as originality. But check out that engine. It's got a serious big block Chevy with aluminum cylinder heads, big Holly up top. It's got some super trick wheels on it, big tires on the back, cool 70s stance. This is what you'd have seen in super stock and modified production back in the day. Now here's a pretty traditional gasser. This is a 40 Ford Coupe. You can see this thing's got a cool tank up front that looks like a homemade moon tank. Then we've got a small block Chevy with a wine blower, two big 4-barrel carburetors, and a Hilburn style scoop. You can see the stance on this car is right on the money. It's got skinny slots, black steel wheels on the back, no running boards. This is just a pure old hot rod. My buddy Bob puts a lot of laps on this old Chevrolet gasser. Now, this thing is slick. It's got a cool paint job on it, and he runs it hard. Then you can see his next door neighbor here with the Chevy 2 gasser. You can see a pretty fresh looking flat black paint job, fresh looking Lexan in this car. It's got some super trick or centerline wheels. Fender wells have been cut out, wheelie bars. It's got a pretty cool gasser look. Alright, that's enough talking. Let's take a look at some of these cars making passes down the 8th mile track at Brainerd Motorsports Park. I included some of the other bracket cars and a special Nostalgia Pro Stock match race at the end.
miles an hour.